Hi everyone, it's Yvonne Britton here, and I'm joined today by Dr. Nicole Galante. So Dr. Nicole actually joined us for the summit we did last year, the Core Vitality Summit, and that was very much a medical medium themed summit. And Dr. Nicole is actually on the Healing Ambassador site, the website, and she's recommended by Anthony, which probably means she has a huge waiting list. But Dr. Nicole is actually a chiropractic doctor. She's an intuitive healer, and she's also a shamanic practitioner. So we talked very much around the medical medium things in our last interview, and I was really very much fascinated by the shamanic side of things. So welcome, Dr. Nicole. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me again. It's wonderful to speak with you and all of the listeners that you have. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Thank you. So as I was saying, you're actually a shamanic practitioner as well. Maybe you could start with maybe mentioning what that is, and then after that, what I would maybe like to talk about is how you combine that with the medical medium things.
Absolutely. So part of the healing journey, especially when I started with Anthony, 20 some years ago, was really about the food and food-based and, just how to get our bodies physically well. And one thing that I discovered as moving through that, physical healing journey, that a lot of emotional things came up and a lot of things that were very hard and very difficult to work through emotionally. And everybody seeks many different types of, therapy, whether it be a therapist or, a talk therapist or, a shamanic practitioner or, an energetical body work, a polarity therapist. Everybody has something different to offer. And during the course of my healing, different things, continued to come up. And it's almost as if when you're doing the emotional pieces of your healing journey, different things arise. And so you might find yourself in talk therapy for a year and be like, wow, okay, well, I kind of grew from that and I need something different. And then you might get to a place where the emotions can be really tough. Am I worthy of being well? Am I strong enough? Am I strong enough to, get through this? And so as that healing journey happens for each of us in its own way, and everybody has a different journey, what started happening for me is that I live very close to nature, and I live in nature, and I found myself spending a lot of time outdoors and really just kind of alone in the woods and alone in the water and just kind of experiencing the things around me. And what I found was that I was not necessarily needing so much of kind of talk therapy, but I was needing more of something that really connected me to the earth and got me grounded emotionally and energetically. And, it could be a very long story, but the short story of it is that different things started showing up. Different animals started showing up, and I was like, okay, well, I just had a bear walk across in front of me. What is that? That can't just be that's just not happen. What does that mean? And so I started discovering that there were different animal totems and different spirit animals, and I found that all of a sudden became something that was very, very meaningful. And so over the course of about a year, different things kind of happened, and different animals would show up. And I just found myself more and more in nature. And then I found this wonderful, I basically found a wonderful flyer on, shamanic training. And I was like, well, that's probably where I need to be right now. And so I basically took that and I made a simple phone call. And then I started doing some traveling to a couple different states to work with the heart of the healer, the Pachacuti Mesa. And I found that was just very fitting for what I was going through. And so that became a really significant part, a very significant part of my healing was how do I get grounded to our earth? How do I get grounded and find myself in a grounded place? And that became some very pivotal parts of my healing journey, is that I do have control over over what I'm doing for myself and how I'm healing. And it's just been a magical journey since then. And it's very up and down. You know, there are days that it can be really easy. Then there's days that it can be even harder.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at today.
What did you have some kind of chronic issues?
What was that again?
What did you suffer from? Was it chronic health issues or?
Chronic, yes. In the beginning, actually with Anthony, it was very acute. It was almost as if I woke up one day and couldn't walk, you know, across the floor.
Wow.
And, you know, it was incredibly painful, and that was pretty sudden. And I continued to get better, but what happened from there was just the emotional things that come up. You know, the emotional aspects of old traumas and old, you know, emotional traumas from, you know, family and just, you know, things that we don't ever think that really affect us. And as I got more and more healed physically, I knew that those emotional traumas were on the plate that needed to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical aspects were not there as much, but some of them did become restrictive in the healing aspect of my life, you know, because we can stop ourselves from healing physically because of the emotions.
Yeah, I completely agree. How did that kind of like manifest itself on a day-to-day basis for you? Would that kind of like show up as when those emotions were strong? Did it kind of like feel like anxiety, or was it kind of like depression or something else?
Anxiety and depression are definitely probably the bigger ones, but looking deeper, it was kind of not feeling like you belong somewhere, not feeling comfortable in your own skin. That was one of the things that Anthony and I talked about, was, you know, not feeling comfortable in, you know, in my own skin and feeling like, you know, if something doesn't feel right. And so the physical aspect was healing, but the emotional stuff was becoming very raw, and emotions are very, very raw.
Mm-hmm.
And we need tools to help heal those emotions. And they look different to everybody and how that healing happens. You know, for some people, it might be Reiki, it might be polarity, it might be, you know, different, you know, wonderful people that offer really good supportive spiritual talks, A Course in Miracles. Everybody has a different healing path, but mine definitely fell in the nature shamanic piece of it, because I really wanted to work with those emotions, and I wanted to work with those energies, you know, that are around me in the natural world to help heal and ground myself.
Is that the essence of what shamanic healing is then? So if somebody went to see a shamanic practitioner, is that kind of like the approach, or does it really depend on the person?
It depends on the training that they have had, and depends on who they practiced with and who they studied with. But yes, a lot of it is, you know, using the earth, you know, water and fire elements, similar to Chinese medicine, and using those elements to heal. You're using them in a way to ground yourself and connect with those energies to help support and heal your own body, and to help heal traumas in yourself and in others. You know, all work that we do ultimately is healing ourselves, you know, before we can really, really help others. So it really depends on where the shamanic, you know, where the shamanic teacher is from, and where they learn from, and how that's passed down. That just happened to be the path that crossed mine.
Mm-hmm. I'm so happy that you're sharing this, because I've, like, throughout the years, because I was lucky enough to catch Anthony in one of his very first Hay House radio shows, and I certainly did all of the diet part, but there was most definitely an emotional, maybe spiritual healing that came with it, and is still, you know, still happening on a day-to-day basis. So I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because I think, and I've certainly been guilty of it myself, I was extremely focused on the diet, extremely focused on the strictness around, you know, I had to do the celery juice, you know, I didn't give myself any leeway, and maybe that was fine at the point I was at, but I think it might have kind of like contributed a bit more stress to the situation, just on the you know, sometimes being too strict is depending if it's causing you, you know, stress because there's no celery, so you run around 10 different shops to try and find organic celery. At what point do you just need to relax and not have the celery juice, you know? So yeah, I'm really happy that you share that. And then
that's one piece I would like to touch on. That is that one piece is that we learn by, you know, what we read and, you know, the information that, you know, Anthony puts out and whoever puts out that has, you know, wonderful, healthy tools, you know, to follow, is that we really want to do it right so we can really heal. But we also have to learn to be really kind to ourselves. I mean, this is a journey of learning how to love ourselves and learning how to, you know, sit with those hard emotions and sit with the things that really make us feel uncomfortable, because that's what helps push us more to become whole in ourselves. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned in going through and doing this work, is that I really need to be comfortable with those old emotional traumas. We all have them, and we all work with them differently, and they all manifest in different ways. And it's really about learning to be comfortable with those so we can continue this healing process for ourselves, but also to help others, because ultimately that's what human nature is that we all want to help others.
Definitely we do. And it's not it's not easy to sit in your own fire until you process what you need to process. And I think eating for a lot of people is a way to stifle those emotions that they don't want to feel as well. So it's kind of like a cycle.
Exactly.
And Anthony mentioned, I don't know if it was in the Liver Rescue book or in one of his Facebook or Instagram lives, but he did mention that when you eat something, that the emotion can attach to the toxin. So it goes into the liver, and as it comes out your liver, and I was blown away by that. That concept that, you know, when you're releasing those toxins, you will ultimately release the emotions as well.
Exactly. Okay, hold on just a second. My warden's here.
Okay. So, and Dr. Nicole, talking about the diet and in particular then, you mentioned that you would like to talk about the vibration that the food itself has.
Yes. So in working and doing shamanic work, you learn about the vibration. You learn about energetical vibration, you know, with animals and how things kind of flow and come to you at certain times. And something that Anthony talks about, and I think a lot of people talk about, is the vibrational energy of our food. So if we are going to eat something, we want to eat something that's very vibrationally energetic for us, and something that's green and something that's alive. And how things are treated, whether you are eating animal protein or not eating animal protein, or how your vegetables are gardened, all of that has vibration. So it's really important to pay attention to those energetical vibrations of where your food comes from and how it's processed and how it's treated before it comes to us. So it's kind of an ethical piece as well. You could look at that as either way, but everything that we do has an energetical aspect for our healing. So it's important when you're looking at vibration and you're looking at your health, that the vibration around what you're doing for yourself has a good high vibration. Mm-hmm. And the earth does have a high vibration, and I think we forget to check in with that, because that's where we connect to help heal ourselves.
And does it make a difference if you hold the food in your hand for a certain time before you cook it or cook
Absolutely. It? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There is something very powerful to be said about the intention of things that we put into our bodies. So if you're angry and you're really mad at yourself and you're, saying, gosh, I don't want to eat, I don't want to make this celery juice. Oh, I don't want to do it. I hate the taste of it. You're kind of putting that vibrational energy into it. But ultimately, if you take a moment and then just say, I really would like this food to serve me. I would like this food to heal me. I would like this food to help, what's the words that I'm looking for? Help raise my vibration to my best healing abilities for myself, and say a prayer over it and thank it and express gratitude. The whole world hears that. All of the energy hears that, because we're all connected in that way. So it is very important to be very grateful about where our food comes from and what we're putting into our bodies and how it works for us.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you think like certain foods have, when you're looking at what food or what vegetables or fruits that you would buy organic versus non-organic, would you say that like the vibrations of an orange is that they're like citric fruit in general is more protected, or that it wouldn't be so necessary to buy organic? What do you think about that?
That could be such a controversial question.
No.
It really can be, because some people cannot financially afford to buy everything organic,
Mm-hmm.
and then some people can. And yes, would organic be somewhat better for us? Of course, but organic also has some of its drawbacks. The organic, this becomes controversy, but depending on how those organic foods are raised and the guidelines that they have for that to be organic, they can get away with some things. And I feel that saying those good vibrations, whether you charge it with a crystal or you charge it with some good healing love, and you talk to it, and it's in a place of love, then those foods become energetically that. I do feel that probably organic has more nutrients, but I also want to emphasize that people that don't have the money to necessarily spend everything, all of their finances on organic foods, definitely spend the time of connecting more with it and making sure that you're honoring it and thanking it, because that raises the vibration of it. All of those things raise the vibration. It's kind of like, you hear about those stories about, the older women that would talk to their gardens and talk to their plants, and their houses would be filled with these huge plants that were immense, is because she had such a good vibe. And, it's that energetical vibe. So if you want to do that same thing with your foods, I encourage you to step into that. And that's something that I learned by doing that shamanic work, that everything has a vibration. The trees, our earth, the water, and how we treat it affects how we feel.
Yeah. What do you recommend then for somebody who lives in the city, who wants to get more in touch with nature? I know you live in the countryside yourself, don't you? Somebody who's maybe in the city, is it just really finding as many green patches as possible within, close to where you live?
Yes, that is definitely one of those things. I think I think the majority of us have access to get somewhere where there's green grass and to get out of the city. I used to live in the city. I grew up in the city.
Oh.
I grew up where there wasn't, a lot of parks and stuff around. And so I did more city things than I did nature stuff. And now that I'm more where I can be in nature, I find that it's very easy for me to walk outside. But it's only a matter of sometimes getting outside for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, you're energetically changing your vibration by being part of nature in that short period of time.
And even if you're in the sun and like, here come your animals.
I have geese.
Even if you like sun, not exactly sunbathing, like lying down, but like feeling the sun on your skin consciously, would that be something that you could do as well?
Absolutely, feeling the sun on your face. Definitely taking your shoes and socks off if you're not standing in 3 feet of snow, and touching the ground with your bare feet is very powerful. And there's a lot of different readings out there. You know, there's things about grounding and earthing and basically walking around and getting yourself into a place that has green grass and just bare earth that you can touch, really gets you centered. And I think for somebody that's looking for a spiritual path and looking about getting in nature, allow yourself to kind of be open and free yourself from restrictions and see what shows up. I wasn't necessarily looking when I was spending time in the woods. I wasn't necessarily looking for a path, but it did start to show itself. And people that are healing themselves physically are ultimately walking hand in hand with opening that spiritual side of them. And that spiritual side will manifest itself in a very unique way. You might walk into a place and find a feather, or you might find a crystal, or you might be like, wow, I just feel so good here. I want to come back. And at that point, that door has almost opened, that you can start looking more for signs that show up. And that's really how that balance works out.
Okay. You mentioned crystals a couple of times. I did have another couple of questions, but I have some. And I, if there's a full moon, I put them outside. But how could crystals help you in your healing path, or just in your life?
So they offer their own energy. They have their own vibration themselves, and just having them in your presence can help basically transmute and change energy in a room. And you have to think that they came from the earth. They're thousands of years old, and they have all this beauty. So they've grown, and they've turned into these beautiful little beings. And yes, definitely on a full moon, it's a great time to charge those. I like to make full moon water that I can drink up into the new moon, because it helps just ground you spiritually. It really gives you a place to connect with. So, even if you have one and you're just, holding it and looking at it, really take a minute and say, how do I feel with this? If I'm really feeling good about this. And I've noticed at my chiropractic office that I just have a few around, and I've noticed that children are incredibly drawn to them.
They are. My daughter.
And yes. So if you look at that and say, wow, kids are always touching those crystals and looking at them, it's because they have a vibration. They're fascinating to them. So they unknowingly are picking up on something from those. And I think as adults, we lose that connection with that piece of ourselves.
I have mine in my hand right now. I just saw it in front of me. I have one on my desk. What was the full moon water that you mentioned?
So a lot of shamanic studies and shamanic traditions basically hold a lot of, different types of ceremonies. They really celebrate the full moon, and they celebrate the new moon, and they celebrate equinoxes, because those energetically are very, very powerful times, because the earth is really pulling in one direction and pulling in the other direction. And, the ocean tides get bigger, during the full moon. And so there's a lot of energy moving around. And so by connecting with that energy, we become even more vibrationally grounded ourselves, so we can enjoy that vibration. So when there's a full moon, sometimes I'll set out a jar, and I might put a couple crystals in it and let it sit out over the night of the full moon. And I might give that water to my dog or my cat or myself, and just have that water that basically has those really, really great vibrations in it.
Oh, great. I'd never heard of that. I do put out my crystals, but I'd never heard of the water. That's super interesting. Thank you. I know
it might all seem a little, I was going to say, it might seem a little out there for some people. But if you look back, a few hundred years ago, this is what people did, on a daily basis. Their lives consisted of what were they gathering from the earth? What were they gathering for their food? What were they doing during the full moon? I mean, people that had no electricity a few hundred 300-400 years ago were celebrating the full moon because they had light at night. So,
yeah.
There's a lot of traditions that are set into place, and you can use those tools in everyday aspects of your life for yourself and for others. I found in the very beginning of my shamanic work that I was just enjoying doing this for myself. It made me feel like I was able to connect with something really deep within myself that was very healing and grounding, and it helped my physical healing continue moving forward at a really wonderful pace.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. Yeah. I do have another couple of questions just quickly. I know we're running out of time, but I see your Instagram's great. I love what you put on there, and I've seen a few things that really, caught my attention. A couple of things about believing in yourself, about your inner conversations, and there was one thing that you had shared a while ago about practicing the self-talk but soaked in honey, which I thought was a beautiful way to say it. Can you talk a little bit about that type of idea of and you mentioned at the beginning, when you're going through that kind of like emotional healing and that you're thinking to yourself, am I strong enough? Because I think sometimes you do feel like I can't, am I capable of going through this? Can I do it? Can you talk a little bit about how we believe in ourselves or don't believe in ourselves and those inner conversations and what impact they have?
It's so important that the dialogue that we have with ourselves on a daily basis is positive in nature. And there are times that it's not. There are times in my life it has been, not in a good place, because we all go through different aspects of our healing. And all of those, if we wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I don't want to do this today. Oh, it's gray today, and there's just nothing that really feels positive for the day, that becomes very difficult. And your body basically carries that energy through the day. But if you wake up in the morning and you say, today's going to be a great day, you have that positive affirmation, and your body feels that, and your body energetically connects with that. And you want to feed that. It's kind of like, which wolf are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the angry one, or are you going to feed the really positive one? So our growth depends on which aspect of that we're going to feed. So if we're feeding that self-talk in a really positive direction, we're going to keep moving that way. And a lot of people will say, well, I've been doing all this and I'm not getting any better, or I'm not a runner. I can't do a marathon, but all of a sudden one day, you're a runner because you kept at it, and you kept saying, I'm going to get out here and walk every day, and this is what I'm going to do every day. And then the next thing you know, you're like, okay, I'm in a half marathon. I'm actually a runner, and I'm great at it because I crossed the finish line. And I think that kind of talk, as hard as it is on certain days, try to find that one thing positive. Try to be really sweet and kind to yourself, because the kinder you are to yourself, the easier this process becomes. And sometimes it's about writing it down. Sometimes it's just simply about writing down little pieces of gratitude. I'm thankful that the sky was blue today and I got to enjoy the sunshine. If that's the only thing that you could find for the day, that's something that was good for the day, and then tomorrow you can start again.
Yeah, that changes your energy immediately. It really does.
Mm-hmm. You could probably, I could feel it just talking about it. I get pretty excited about it, but you can feel that when you listen to people talk about it. Think of how, if you go to the grocery store, you're at Whole Foods and you ask somebody how they are and they say, oh, I'm okay. It's kind of gray today. You're like, and you want to, you want to say, well, is it really that bad? But you could kind of very easily get into that. That's the kind of being really kind to yourself and trying to find something positive to look forward to every day. I got up today and drank my celery juice. It was the best thing I did today. It could be something simple like that.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of being conscious sometimes, because I think by default, you you know, many of us do have negative patterns that we're just, you know, not even aware of. And sometimes just by being conscious and changing that, especially those early morning thoughts,
yes,
it you know, it can really work and really have an impact. But I listened to, but you like monitored myself for a long time, listening to the, oh yeah, well, yeah, not too bad. I'm not too bad. Could be better. And I'm like, no.
Right. And it's difficult. There are days that it's harder. And those days that it's difficult, get outside and take your shoes off. Pick up that crystal. You know, do something that makes you feel a little bit better. And again, there'll be dark days and there'll be a lot brighter days. But having tools that help you work through that is really, really important.
You know, there's the gratitude thing, and it's not a crystal, but I have I suppose, I think people call it like a gratitude rock or something, but it's very similar to the crystals I have. It's pink, it's polished, it looks polished. And to hold that at night and just say, what's the thing I'm most grateful for? Just one, you know, and with that stone, that's a really nice practice as well, because it really makes you scan the day for good things. Like,
absolutely, I love that. Yeah. I love that.
It's a really nice practice, and then you become quite attached to your little stone.
Right.
Just one last question, Dr. Nicole. Like, if you had one thing that you could recommend, is it possible do you have something fundamental that you always tell everyone, or is it very, very personal? Is there one thing that you could say to whoever's listening? This is the most important thing for me or for my clients.
I feel like everyone's healing journey is so personal, even though we see so much, you know, available in the world on the internet. And thank goodness for able to get all that information out. But I think it's really important to recognize that all of our healing journeys are very, very, they're very personal, and they're very, very unique to ourselves. And I know one of the things that I try to remind myself, because I have difficult days as well, is that I really try to remind myself that I need to completely love myself and go easy on myself, because every day, you know, you get up and you pull your boots on and say, I'm going to do this today, and I'm going to really try my best to have this be the best day. And the more you allow that energy to kind of surround you and trust that there are greater things, there are truly greater things that help guide us. You know, I say this to a lot of people, that Anthony's information didn't just show up by accident. It showed up because it was the right time. And all of the things that show up for us are part of our journey. So go easy on yourself and completely love yourself. That's something that we all forget. We love each other. We love others very much, and we show them endless amounts of affection, but we forget to nurture ourselves in that way.
It's so true. I discovered recently that if you can kind of like meditate on it a little bit, and if you think about that love, like for my daughter, for example, and then try to take the feeling and not push it back into yourself, but like put it back in your own direction, you can actually kind of like leverage a little bit of the, you know, that loving feeling and bring it back into yourself, which is it's an unusual thing, because it's not something we do,
right,
but it can feel really nice. This has been fascinating. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole. Where can people find you?
So definitely the Healing Ambassadors website is there's a link right there to my website, and my website is healingwithdrnicolegalante.com. I'm available there, and of course, you know, I have Facebook and Instagram as well. So, you know, as with anything, if you can get to one of those websites, you can definitely get in touch with us. And it's been such a pleasure talking with you. I love doing all aspects of the healing. You know, the food stuff is great, and it's a little bit easier. It's the spiritual and the emotional stuff that's sometimes harder for people to get through. So I really appreciate you doing this part of your talk.
Oh, thank you. It's been absolutely a pleasure and fascinating. Thank you.
You're very welcome.